Alright, another Spider-Man movie. We've seen our hero fight the Green Goblin, Dr. Octopus, and now we have Sandman and Venom. So this has to be awesome, right? Right? Spider-Man 3. Warning, this video will contain spoilers of Sam Raimi's first two Spider-Man movies, so you've been warned. Alright, Spider-Man 3 came out in 2007, 7 years ago, and I was still pretty young at the time, at least too young to know a good movie from a not good movie. So when it came out I thought, oh, it was the coolest movie ever because it was another Spider-Man movie, and there was action and Venom, and everything was just awesome and cool. It was another Spider-Man movie, it had to be good. Now I watch it with a little more sense in me, and it's just not good. I'm gonna break down what I did and did not like about this movie because it did have a couple of things going for it. First of all, Harry Osborn. You remember in Spider-Man 2, he found out that Peter Parker was Spider-Man, and he found his father's old goblin gear, so you're like, alright, he's going to avenge his father. Hey, that could be really cool. Harry Osborn's story arc in this movie, it worked for me. There were a couple of things in there that did not make sense, but they are far from the worst parts of this movie. Most of the action scenes were actually pretty cool. Not the story that leads up to them, I'm talking about the action itself. The fight between Peter and Harry at the beginning of the movie, I thought that was cool. Symbiote Spider-Man versus Sandman down in those tunnels, that was alright. And let's face it, that symbiote Spider-Man suit is badass. Seriously, look at that thing. Just look at it for a second. Yeah. Pretty cool, huh? And that's pretty much everything good about this movie. Now on to what I don't like. Let's start off with Sandman. Flint Marko. He's a guy, he's down on his luck. You're supposed to empathize with him because he has a daughter who's dying, and so he's like, oh, I need to get money in any way I can so I can save my daughter. But you don't really feel sorry for him at all. And the reason for that in this movie, I think, is that Thomas Hayden Church is just not a great actor. At least not in this movie. And one of the plot points in his story arc is that he is actually the one who shot Uncle Ben. Okay, wait a minute. What? Doesn't that kind of butcher the whole origin story of Spider-Man in the first place? The story was Peter Parker let a burglar get away with a crime. He was right there, he watched it happen, he could have done something about it, but he decided not to. And this burglar ended up killing Uncle Ben, the man who taught Peter that there are great responsibilities that come with having these powers. So when the burglar kills Ben and Peter sees it, he feels like he is at fault and he gets the message. That all makes sense to me. Why does it have to be Flint Marko who's actually the one who killed him? It didn't work for me. It just, no. Another thing that didn't work in this movie, Eddie Brock. Oh my god. When he first comes on the scene, I'm like, this guy's annoying. Can you stop talking, please? He's like this babbling doofus. Like, okay, maybe he'll be better later in the movie. And later in the movie, no, he's still pretty annoying. Gwen Stacy was so shoehorned into this movie. It's unbearable. Seriously, why was she in this movie? I seriously cannot think of one good reason. Mary Jane was not as cheesy here as she was in the first one. No, instead they made her really bitchy. She's putting up these arguments with Peter that don't make any sense. Example, there's a scene where she and Peter are sitting down at this fancy restaurant. Bruce Campbell's cameo was hilarious. Gwen Stacy comes by, she says hi to Peter, she meets Mary Jane and she leaves. Peter explains, she's a girl in my science class, it's not her best subject. Mary Jane gets this really mad look, she's all like, how come he never mentioned her? She's just a girl in his class, no need to get mad. Doesn't make sense. There are some scenes in this movie that I remember being good or funny when I was younger, but now they are just terrible. Oh my god. And J.K. Simmons isn't even that funny in this movie. That's when you know this movie is a step down from the second one. That whole pill gag, nah, it didn't make me laugh. It made me sad, really. This movie isn't completely terrible, it does have its good things. Does it give us a good, solid conclusion to Peter Parker's story like the final chapter of a trilogy should do? No. I want to say this movie's fun, but there are just some really stupid parts in this movie. Ugh. Spider-Man 3's final grade is a C. Minus. Disappointing, really. Okay, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy. Which one's your favorite? Go ahead and leave a comment. And don't forget to subscribe.